sorry. Hi, guys. I just realized I needed to bring some stuff over here. Hope you all are well. I'll give everybody a few minutes to come in and say hi. Just tell us where you're from. Your neighbor may be stitching next to you, and you might find a new friend here. Today, we're going to talk about the stabilizer wraps that I did on the Luminaire the other day. So these are basically snap bracelets, and you can buy them on your favorite internet shopping experience all over. Okay. And I did use these on the Brother Facebook Live last week and made the design on the Luminaire. So basically it will just snap around your stabilizer and hold it so that you can label it. And if you will color code them for yourself, it makes it a really easy way to know which kind you're grabbing. So like I have pink, I have red, I have blue for wash away. And the snap bracelets are basically a ruler, but you can't make your ruler do this. You can't, or your, what is that? A tape measure, but you can't make your tape measure do the snap like these do. Whoops. So when you buy them, you're going to take them out of you're just going to cut the ends off the little plastic around it, take them out of it because this gets too much bulk. And then you're going to make them. So I actually have the template on my website where you can go download the template to be able to do what we're going to do. And if you want to do it on the machine, as I said, I did it for Facebook Live on the Brother Luminaire last week. If you have a machine that has My Design Center on it, you could do it. You will not have, unless you have the Luminaire with the upgrade 2, I think it actually may be upgrade 1. You won't have the magic wand selection tool. So you would have to do the eraser tool or draw around something and cut it out. So just keep that in mind. But the Luminaire makes it really easy because you can magic wand it. Now, there's a couple of ways we could achieve this. If we're going to start with BES4, but I'm going to start with assuming you have no power packs. Okay. So in that case, you can either draw it yourself, or you can take it through Canvasworkspace and have it automatically trace it. So that's where I'm going to start, just because everybody can have Canvasworkspace. It's free and it's an easy way to trace things. So good to see you guys. Thanks for joining me today. I'm glad everybody's here. I hope everybody's well and getting along just great. Okay. So without further ado, we'll start in Canvasworkspace and I'll show you how to create your FCM file there, which could be imported in both BES4 and NP Design. Okay. And then I'll show you how, if you wanted to draw it yourself, you could draw it yourself. It's either way, it's doable. Okay. So let's go to Canvasworkspace here. Okay, let's see here. I got to get to my screen. Here we go. Canvasworkspace. All right, so I'm in my Canvasworkspace. To image trace, actually, let's take you all first to my website for just a second, and I'll take you to where you can get that design down, the image downloaded, so that you know where that is. Hang tight for just a second. My computer has decided it doesn't want to open up a different browser for me. Come on, give me a browser. There we go. All right, so if we go to my website, if I can type today. All right, Cynthia'sEmbroidery.com, and I have a shortcut for it right there. Who knew? We'll go and grab the shortcut. That should take me right to it because that one's not liking me. Snowy Independence, Oregon, and sunny, warm Parkland, Florida. We're actually quite warm today ourselves. Why is that not going where I want it to go? My computer is being ornery. I guess no. Wake up. Come on, let's go. It's 80 degrees in Buffalo. No, it's not. It's snowing there, Karen. You're pulling my leg. I know better. I know better. This is taking forever. Let me see if I can grab another Chrome tab instead. Here we go. All right. Since that one doesn't like me, we'll pull this one up. All right. So if you go to the free designs page here, right here, stabilizer wrap artwork from Facebook Live is what you would do. And if you want to order snap bracelets, here's a link. I do get a little skin off the game on that one, but it doesn't cost you any extra if you order from my link. Just letting you know there. So full disclosure. So let's see here. We're going to touch in Canvasworkspace the image tracing button. And we're going to choose an image from the computer. All right. And I have stabilizer wrap here. If I do last week's, it's a dual color. Then I can put the single color if it doesn't work for you. But here's my dual color one. We do not want to choose the outside edge only. We want to choose trace areas by color, and we want 2 colors. So here we have 2 colors. You'll notice a blue and a blue. So we're good. And we're going to click OK. And it has image traced it for us. Now, if we go into our layers menu over here, which is this little icon right here, we can turn off our original image so we can see what we've got going on. And if you look here, I have a duplicate, a dual one in there. Dueling banjos, and I don't want that. So we can click on the inner piece right here. And we can press delete on the keyboard to get rid of it. And you now have your FCM file that you can use in both BES4 or in PE Design. How simple was that? Now let's look at our edit button and let's see how big this is. It is 1.79 by 9.04, which is exactly what we needed. Okay. So we're going to export this. We'll go up to the File pull-down menu, choose Export Transfer FCM, and we're going to save this to our computer. Now, that message that just popped up that I clicked OK on is because I hid the background that it was auto tracing. That's the only reason that pops up. We don't actually need that, so we can just say OK. And we're going to export the FCM file to our computer. So we'll call it Stabilizer Wrap FCM and then save it. I'm going to go ahead and replace it, just showing you how I did it. I've already done this a couple of times today, so you know that it's there. All right, let me come back up here and see. Do we have any questions so far? No, nobody has any questions. We're good. All right, so I'm going to go back over to BES4. So we've exported our image, exported our FCM file, and we are ready to work on that here in BES4. If I click on my paste setter button, which is the B at the top left, we can choose import and then import artwork. If you have the base level, yours will just say import FCM. Once you get Power Pack 2 in there, it gets that import artwork button. So we're going to choose import, hit the wrong one. Import artwork. Okay. And I went to my downloads because that's where I saved it. And we're going to choose Stabilizer Wrap FCM and open that up. Voila. There we are. Okay. And so it is one piece of artwork though, guys. Now you do, in order to break this up, you would have to have Power Pack 2. So I'm going to go to my Arrange tab and I'm going to choose Break Up Artwork. Now I should have 2 pieces of artwork, the outside and the inside. And that's important because I need to do different things with those. So if I touch my artwork outside piece and I go to my Tools tab, I can then convert that piece to an applique. I want my applique width to be wider because this is going to be a freestanding item when we're done. So we're going to touch 4. I want it 4 millimeters, which is a wide satin. Okay. Now, if you don't have Power Pack 1, you can convert the inside to an applique and then we can make some changes. If you have Power Pack 1, you want to convert that to run. But I'm going to assume you don't. So we're going to convert it to applique. And we're going to change our applique type to a run. And then down here where it says run type, we're going to change it to a beam stitch, which is a triple stitch, and click apply. Okay. Or actually for the first part of that, we want it to be just a single run. So we're going to change that back to single run. So it only goes around at one time because we have that control here. Now, in order to make this the steps that I had it, what I had was a running stitch that went around this outside area first and one that went around this inside area first so that I would know where to place my ruler. Okay. So basically it's a placement stitch for where your fabric's going to go and where your ruler's going to go. In order to do that, once I have these steps set up the way that I want them, we want to preserve each section as stitches. If you had Power Pack 1, instead of converting to applique, you would have converted to run, and that would mean you would only need to do one of these preserve as stitches. But since we had, I'm assuming you don't, we're going to preserve each of these as stitches. So we're going to right mouse click and choose preserve as stitches. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to right mouse click and choose preserve as stitches. So you'll notice instead of applique over here, I now have my 3 sections for each of them. You want me to undo that and let you see? Right now it says applique and it shows you the breakdown of the applique. So here's my breakdown of my appliques. But when I right mouse click on each section and choose preserve as stitches, I now have separate colors and it no longer says applique. All right. So we wanted a triple stitch as our top stitch. But this little applique piece, the first one, that's going to be telling us we're going to use that. We're going to use that as to tell us where we're going to place our fabric, our ruler in the middle of, okay? We want to copy our placement stitch for the outside. So we're going to right mouse click on that and we're going to choose copy. And then we're going to click on the piece below it and we're going to right mouse click and we're going to say insert. So it will insert it above this one. So now you have 2 of the same steps and I would change colors. So that gives you one placement stitch. Actually, we don't want that one there. It's going to be back down. It's going to be back down. Hold on. So we want that one there. And we want to take this one and move it up here. So now you have 2 placement stitches. Let me hide and show you what I mean. So if I hide everything besides the 2 stitches I just showed you, this is what you want to embroider. Okay. And that's going to go on to water soluble stabilizer. Let me come up here and see if that makes sense to you guys. Tammy, if you made these for a 5x7 hoop, they may not be wide. It won't be big enough for this to fit in. Okay. This ruler, I gave you exactly how long this was. If the dimensions that I have for this are what will make this work, but you could put multiples in a bigger hoop. So you can, 9-inch. So you could do it in 8x12. You could do it in a 10x10. I did mine in my 10 5/8 by 10 5/8, and I did 4 across. They will not fit in a 5x7. Okay. Unless you cut down your ruler, unless you cut down the snap bracelet. And like I said, I tried this with a measuring tape, a regular measuring tape, and could not make it work. They've done something to these and I don't know what. So I did have to order the snap bracelets. Any questions as to what I've done so far? You have a placement stitch and let me come right here. Placement stitch for the outside and a placement stitch for the inside, right? Okay. So let's hide those 2. And let's bring everything else back up so you can see what else we've got going on. So next we need the placement stitch. We need that again. So we need that first placement stitch again because you've laid your fabric down on top. You've got your ruler set in there. You need a placement stitch to go inside it. So we're going to copy that one. Oh, I do have to unhide it in order to copy it. So we're going to copy that one. And we're going to go down here, right mouse click and paste it. and just come back in and pop it up where you want it to go. And we want it to go after the little piece. Let's change the colors of that. So we have multiple colors. All right. So you have placement stitch, third placement stitch, right? All right. So then it's going to do your stitching over the top. These are your next little things, and that's perfectly fine. Everything can go in the order that it is at that point. So there's your covering stitch and you're good. What one's that one? That should be your covering. We're good. All right. So this guy right here, you don't need. You're going to delete him because remember that doesn't actually have to be an applique. And then the last one is your decorative stitch that's going to hold your ruler into place. And that you are done. So any questions? Oh, Cindy, you're a hoot. Sorry, I forgot I was up on the screen, so I'm sitting there looking at it. Yes, width, not whip, but width. I'm not snapping the whip at you. You basically need, so if we watch the stitch out, let me show you what we've got on the screen. If we watch this embroider, your first stitch, as I slide it across, is a placement stitch for you to place your fabric. The next one is the inner part of that to place your ruler. All right, you stitch that onto your stabilizer. And if you go back and watch last week's Facebook Live, you will see exactly what I've done here. Then it's going to stitch another placement stitch around the outside edge to tack your fabric down. After you've tacked your fabric down, you would go back in and trim around the outer of the top and the bottom. Okay, I'll add lettering in just a minute, Susan. First, I wanted to get the basic shape here. And then you just kind of stitch around it. All right, and then it's going to do the covering stitch. And then it's going to do the interior stitch. Okay, so that is how the design actually embroiders out. If you want to add lettering to it, so the text that I added, if you remember, I did two separate things. So I'm going to click a new page. And we actually need the first piece so that we know we're putting our lettering in the correct space. I'm going to grab the first two and I'm going to copy those. And I'm going to come over to my new page and I'm going to paste those down. This gives me the parameters of where my text can go. My text can go in the middle. I'll delete that interior piece in just a minute, but I need that to know what I've got. We are going to group these two together so we don't mess anything up. And now we're going to go to our home tab and we're going to add text. And you can pick whatever text you like. I'm going to type in wash away. And let me pick a font that is actually embroidery. So we're going to change it from artwork to a stem column. And I want to go to my regular fonts. And let's see here. What is a good legible font that I want? I liked Bake Fresh. We're going to go with Bake Fresh today. We're going to apply that. And if you like it and if it fits in our area, then we're good to go. But let's see here. It may be a little bit big. So it is a little bit big for my area. So let's look and see. If I click my question mark, I can make that 0.59 inches is the smallest I can make that. And it's 0.98. So let's go with 0.75 and see if we like that. There we go. That's pretty good. So now I would select them all, go to my Arrange tab, and I would horizontal center and vertical center. Okay. Now, if you want to set up all of your washaways for one time, let's say you're doing adhesive washaway as well, we can copy that and we can paste it and move it over. And we can change this to adhesive washaway. So I would put adhesive, or just add, actually, is what I usually do. Add washaway. And so then apply it. So that is basically changed my text. We would want to center it, horizontal center, vertical center, so that you have it ready to go. And then you can group that one. And if you want to, you can just go ahead and make yourself a full hoop of them. So depending on what hoop you're choosing, let me go ahead and select my hoop here this time. Let's see here. What is that one? 272 by 272 is my 10 5/8 by 10 5/8. So here we go. And you can see that I could easily get 4 of these in here. Cheater's way of copying is to grab the one that you've grouped here. Let me click off of everything. Grab the one that I've grouped. Hold your control key down. Drag it over. Let go of the mouse. And then let go of your control key. Okay. And then you can change that one from adhesive wash away, and you could say you want stitch and wash, or whatever you have. You can apply that one. And then once again, go to your Range tab, select everything in that section, horizontal. We want to ungroup it for a second. Now, horizontal center, vertical center. And there you go. Then you can regroup it. That just lets you do things all at once. And I'm going to actually make sure that all of my individual ones are grouped together so that I have everything together. And then we can select it all. And you could say distribute horizontally so that they're distributed evenly. And then you could align them to the bottom if you wanted to. Just to where it's in a normal position, in a decent position for yourself, whatever you like. You would stitch these first and trim close to that line, but not all the way up to it. But one last thing, all of the green ones, all of the green pieces that they inner line, we're going to get rid of because you don't need those to stitch twice. So this is what you would stitch for your top color. All right, let me come back up here and talk for a second. So the part that I just did is what you would stitch for your first color. And you would just lay a piece of fabric on top of, I used adhesive tearaway for that because then I could peel off the back side of it and make it not so dense on the top. I did fuse a no-show mesh to the back of my fabrics, the top fabric, not the underside, okay? That made it have a little bit more bulk to it on the top side. And it'll keep that ruler from poking out. Okay. You don't really, on these, in order for them to go around your stabilizer and stay, you don't really want to have a ton of bulk on them, which is why I did the no-show mesh. On the back, I used when I stitched them out, I stitched them onto adhesive wash away so that I could easily get the edges washed away on them. Okay. And it's really a super simple project to do if you go follow along with the sewing instructions that I did on last week's Brother Facebook Live. You'll be able to follow along with the construction of it. Okay. So let's do it in P Design. Does that make sense? Any questions for you guys on that one? There are a couple of, I mean, if I didn't want to go through Canvasworkspace, I didn't have to because I have all of the power packs. I could have gone into my image trace mode. Power Pack 2 gave me image tracing. So I could have done my image tracer here in VES4 and basically completed the entire project here. But not everybody has that power pack. So I showed you the way to do it without it. Okay. Want to make sure everybody's included in this one because it is a great little organizer, and you can use it for your vinyls as well. But if you want to, if you're lazy or in a hurry, let's see, where did that one go? I have one somewhere. and you have a scan and cut, you can always just put vinyl on it, color code your vinyl. So adhesive vinyl will work as well. But these, I mean, and you can actually put it around your vinyl. So it does give you some options as to how to organize things and keep things tight. Great option for especially transfer tape for your adhesive vinyls that keeps that transfer tape stuck together. So yeah, I love that stitch. How did I decide what density, what width to make it? And I left the density at the default on this one because I increased the density on the machine because I wanted the stitches tighter together. If you want to increase your density over here after you stitch one out and you don't like it, I look at it to see if it's going to cover my edges. But if you wanted to change your density in BES4 before you did this, so let me bring my import back in. Let me import my artwork again and move it over here. And let's say we needed to break that apart because it's two pieces of artwork. You do have to have Power Pack for that one. I don't think, let's test that theory before I say you have to have that. If I convert to Applique, yeah, they're all one Applique. So that doesn't work for you. Breaking apart is the only way to do it. So let's arrange, break apart. If you were in Canvasworkspace, you could delete the interior and save the exterior as one FCM file and then go back in and delete all the editing points for the exterior and save the interior. So it all depends on what you have, what tools you have available to you. I'm going to go to my Tools tab and convert to Applique. I liked 4 for my width just because it's a wider satin. Density in BES4. The lower the number, the higher the density. So if I wanted it more dense, instead of 0.4, I would go to 0.3 and click apply. And it will tighten up your density there. So you'll notice the difference that I have a higher stitch count on that when my stitches are closer together. I'll do that one more time so you can see the difference. So if it's at point, see how that has reduced that density. If I increase it by reducing the number, you'll notice my stitches are closer together. Okay. All right. So yeah, the break apart is a PE design thing. If you do not have I'm sorry, not PE design, it's Power Pack 2 thing. If you do not have that option in Canvasworkspace, if you tap on this twice, you will get edit nodes. And you can come select those nodes for the interior and hit the minus sign. It's going to be a little bit tedious, but it is doable. I would have, since we've already saved it once as an FCM file, actually, let's undo that. Let's cheat here. Let's copy and paste. Copy, paste, or duplicate, either one. So now I've got 2 of them. That way I don't have to come back in and recreate the wheel the second time. So tap this twice. Come on, give it to me. Why are you not? There we go. Draw around the edit nodes and hit the minus sign. Draw around your edit nodes and hit your minus sign. Make sure you don't get any of the outer ones because that will mess you up. And if you hide these control points, you don't have to mess with those. That's your little wingy dingies. All right, and then we have these left, and we're going to minus those out. There you go. So that would be your exterior, and then you would come over to this one, and let's hide the image in that one. Oh, not that one, this one. Hide the image so we're not having to mess with it. We want to keep the interior for this one and get rid of the exterior, so we're going to touch it twice. It's going to make me touch it a 3rd time. There we go. This one you're going to have to be a little bit more fussy about because you're getting rid of the outside, not the inside. So it may take you a few more minutes to do it, but it's still doable. And the other thing that you would want to do is to change its color. That will make your life a little bit easier to where the BES software recognizes it as two pieces. Okay, so there's your outside and your inside. So I would come over here and I would color this one just so that we're sure. I don't know what it would do to us. I'm not real sure whether it will make it, whether it would do it or not. I think this will be the easiest way if you make it two colors. Then you can export those FCM files. Okay. You will have to align them when you get over there, but then you get both of them. Okay. The finished size of this FCM is exactly what it's supposed to be, which is 1.79 by 9.04. If you bring it in and do it at that size, it will work perfectly for you. Because it actually, if you bring in my artwork that I put on my website, it is the perfect size. And when you bring it into the software or to the Luminaire, it comes in both exactly like it's supposed to. Okay. Now, let's go to P Design. In P Design, it's super simple. Since you had that FCM file that we just created, right? The first one will work fine for this process. We can go to our Scan and Cut tab, import, and then I'm going to find my stabilizer wrap. There it is. I'm going to import it. It's imported, it's already stitches, and it's grouped. We want to ungroup it. Right mouse click, ungroup. And you can actually copy and paste this. Copy, or right mouse click, copy, paste, go to the home page, choose copy, paste, or Control-C, Control-V. Copy, paste. Now, what we do want to do is make sure each piece is a different color. They all say applique material. We don't want that. So let's go to Brother Embroidery here and let's pick a different color. Let's do the same thing for this one and this one. Isn't that interesting? So we're going to grab that one. Change the color to something different, just so you have different colors, so that you know that you have different steps, and your machine will stop. Okay, so this is the one that you want to turn into an applique. This one right here, the outside edge. So we're going to select it, go to our home tab. We need to select it with the select patterns icon and choose the applique wizard. Oh, wait a minute. I need to be in metric, so I'm going to hit my little magic button right there. I know my settings in metric, not in inches. So we're going to touch our applique wizard. We want our width to be 4. Your density of about 5.5 would be good for this. If you want to increase your density, you want it to replace, and I like a tack down stitch of a zigzag. That's my personal preference. So we're going to touch OK. You automatically have your applique done. It has 4 steps. You really only need these two right here. I always make the same color. So I consider those the same thing, and I usually make them my covering stitch color, whatever I plan on having as a covering stitch. All right. So this is your placement stitch for your material, right? This is the placement, sorry, wrong order. Outer, inner. And we want this one to be at the very end. So here's your outer, here's your inner that you stitch onto your stabilizer. Let's change that color so that you know that that's another step. That is where you're placing your fabric down on top of it after you've put your ruler and your fabric on top and you've taped it down. Then it's going to tack it down and it's going to do your covering stitches. This one, we want to be a triple stitch because that's your bean stitch, your decorative stitch around the edge that's going to hold your ruler in its place in the stabilizer area. Could you skip that step? You certainly could. You don't have to have that. I just liked it. my personal preference. So you can change the color. You can have it the same color. Up to you what you want to do. That would be the put it together design. What do you need to do to stitch it to put your letters on it? So let's open up another window of P Design. So I'm going to right mouse click down here and choose P Design 11 again. So I have a second window. I've got these two pieces clicked. I'm going to press the select patterns icon and I am going to copy those. So we're going to choose copy while we're waiting on our window to open up. Here's my second window popping up. I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to choose paste. Now we're ready to add our text, right? So let's go into our text box. And you would do that, click on the design page to activate the tool, and we'll type in wash away. Then go select your font that you want. And I love typing in my text first so that I can see what my font is going to look like with that text. That is why you'll always see me type in my text before I select my font. This gives me the preview of the font with the actual letters that I have in there so that I know whether I like it or not. And let's keep going. I like that one. With these, we can make them bigger, smaller. If you make them bigger, if your stitch is going to be bigger than 7 millimeters across, then you actually want to change the stitch type, which you can do. We're not going to make it too big, so we don't need to worry about that. I'm going to go to my home tab and I'm going to choose rotate 90 degrees left or right. Either one will work. We need to group these two guys together for just a minute. So we're going to right mouse click. I'm going to do Control G. That's the easiest way to do it. Otherwise, you have to get this little cursor here, right mouse click and choose group. Control G is your keyboard shortcut for that, and I use it all the time. So I'm going to drag this around all things and choose arrange center and then arrange middle. And just like we did with the other, you can come in here and select your hoop. So if you're doing it in the 8x8 hoop, or excuse me, the 10 5/8 by 10 5/8, that's 2.72 by 2.72. You can then do a little trick. With this one, you can choose arrange copy, and you could do matrix copy, and you can increase the spacing between them. And let's start left mouse click and draw and see how it's drawing you copies. If you wanted 5 across, you can left mouse click and set those. And you have your 5 duplicates all ready to go, but you would probably want to change the text and align them after that. But that gives you the capability of doing that. Now, what one did I delete? I deleted the inner border. So if you go over to your sewing order window, actually, first you want to ungroup everything because it's going to be grouped and it will delete everything. So go back in and ungroup. Before I do that, I do want to show you how to change your text. So click on your text, and let's say we wanted adhesive wash away here. So if you've got your add wash away, there you go. If your text is too large, you can always smush it, scrunch it in from the outside. So let's see here. I'm going to grab it, pull it in from a corner, or you could put in an exact amount. Oops, too far. And then let's select it, that whole kit and caboodle there, and arrange it. Center, middle. Okay. And then let's take it, move it back up. And you can ungroup. You want to ungroup it so that we can delete. It won't let you delete without ungrouping it. If you try to delete, let me show you how that works. So let's say I wanted to delete this piece right here. When I select it and move my cursor into the design window, if I delete it, oh no, it worked. I was afraid it was going to delete the whole thing. If you hide it, it hides the whole thing. So I was afraid it would delete it for you. So you don't have to take that extra step. You can just come over, select it, move your cursor into the design window, and press delete. You do not have to ungroup. Double click is another way to select pieces. In the sewing order window, I always select from my sewing order window. It keeps me from messing anything up in my design window. When you're done with that, you're ready to send it to your machine. You can send it via USB. If you were on a Luminaire or a PR1055X, you can send it via wireless network. So it depends on how you do things. If you're direct connected, you can send it direct connect. All right, I'm popping back up here, and looks like there's some questions up here. Let's see here. Susan, yes, I do tape the ruler in place before I cover it with fabric. I use medical paper tape or washi tape. I usually do medical paper tape. It's what I have in my house. And that protects it. And I also watched that video that I did on Brothersews. I use a device, a poking device, to make sure I slow my machine down. And I hold a poking device down there and follow it along as it's stitching around that ruler, to make sure the ruler is staying flat on the edge that my foot's at, okay? Half the time I use my finger, I will say, but that's probably not best practice. So if you have a stiletto, I don't want to say it because I'm probably going to butcher the English language. So a poking device of some sort, just hold it down and follow it along, but slow your machine down as slow as it can go once you have that ruler in there, because you want to make sure that it does not shift and that your foot does not get caught on it. I did raise my presser foot up a bit. I think I was at 0.1 or 0.8 or 0.08 or 0.1, one of the two, okay? And Cindy, it's just a matter of, that is 4 or 5 is my go-to when I'm doing in the hoop projects and I want a finished edge on something and it's going to be torn away. That's my go-to. And that's just from years of experience. So that's just one that I do. Karen, you are most welcome. Yeah, and you could cut these out with a scan and cut, but I would add a measure to them. I actually liked doing it without it because then I wasn't married in place to it, and if it shifted a little bit, it wasn't going to mess anything up. So I gave myself wiggle room all the way around when I trimmed. For those of you that don't have BS4 or don't know how to use P Design, go back and watch this video because your P Design, I just did it in P Design for you. You can do it. It's easy. I was not planning on providing the design out there. I can put it on there, but then you wouldn't have learned anything, Miss Sue. So go back in and watch this video again. Go slowly through it, although I know I did go fast. It will take care of it for you. Yes, you can certainly adjust the size and adjust the density along with it. With an applique, it is best if you undo and then go back into the applique wizard, because if you reduce or increase the size of an applique, it changes where your stitches go, okay? So I prefer to make sure I have my size correct to begin with and then do my applique wizard. You can, after you're done, you can obviously change the stitch density. So let me show you what I mean. Go back over to our original applique. So let's say we select this whole thing. Let's first of all look at where our stitches are. You'll see my placement stitch, and then here's your tack. Actually, this is your placement telling you where to go. We want that there, and there. Okay. So those are your 2 different stitches. And then you've got your covering stitch. So if we grab this whole thing, I wanted you to see what happens here. If I grab this whole thing and I resize it, I don't have to hold down any special keys, just so you know. Sometimes those stitches shift. They didn't this time, which is great. But sometimes those stitches shift to where you don't want them to, and that is not optimal. So that is why I tell you I would prefer you to create it the size that you want it to begin with. And if you go back to the beginning and you import that FCM, you'll see that you can see the size of it immediately before beginning. So let me undo, and let's go back in and bring, oops. Let's go back in and bring in that original artwork. Import, scan and cut. Where's my stabilizer wrap? If I import it in, it should be the exact size that I need it because I brought it in from BES4. So if I go over here and I look at it in inches, down here at the bottom, it tells me it's 1.7 by 8.96. Okay. And I actually wanted it, well, that resized it a little bit on me. We wanted it 1.79 by 9.02. So, all right, we can undo. We know an exact size we wanted it to be. So let's go to our Home tab, touch size, take off maintain aspect ratio, and touch this button down here. We wanted it 1.79 by 9.04, I believe was my exact number, and click OK. So now it's resized it to the exact size that I, oops, y'all hadn't seen a thing that I've done. Oh my goodness, sorry guys. Yeah, that's too funny. I apologize. Did not mean to do that. Okay. Let's see here. Let's go back in and do this again. So if you are resizing, since you haven't seen a thing I've done since I started resizing here, let's look in here and zoom in. All right. So you see your stitches. I've got 3 stitches going down through here. When I resize, sometimes those shift. All right. They didn't this time, just so you know, but you can just pull it from a corner to resize. Oops, we want to do everything though. We want to select all, right? Control A, and we want to pull it from a corner to resize. You are looking at this stitch and this stitch. Okay, those are your 2 key elements. You wanted to make sure that they stayed in the same place, and they basically did. So it did not mess it up for this one. But when you make an applique and you resize it, sometimes those things go awry with those, just so you know. Okay, your better option to do is go to your Scan and Cut tab, import it, and size it before you create the applique so that you know that everything is the correct size before you begin. So I've imported that in, and now let's look at down here at the bottom left of my screen. It's 1.7 by 8.96, and I said that it needed to be 1.79. So we're going to go to size, take off maintain aspect ratio, put a dot in front of numerical setting, and you can type in 1.79 by 9.04. Click OK, and now you're ready to begin it at the correct size before you ever start. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. So that is too funny. Yeah, especially when I'm not looking at the comments, that's one of those, oops, sorry, don't know what to tell you. So, yeah, I meant to share my screen and forgot to. So, any questions on that? I mean, it's a lot to absorb. There's a lot there, but if you make it the size that you want it to before you begin, you can. Now, I think I saw somebody up here that asked, already made design adjusting density. Okay, if you want to adjust density on a design that's already been created, you must convert it to blocks first. That's the only way that you can adjust something that's pre-done or convert to outlines. Your convert to blocks will keep the stitches that they have chosen. Convert to outline converts everything to an outline, and then you have control. So just letting you know. Convert to blocks can do some funky things to things too. Just so you know, it's better these days, but especially if you're using Next, it's going to be a little wonky. Anything below version 10 gets a little bit wonkier. Cindy, could I tape length lengthwise, half stitch one side, stop the machine, and remove the tape. Here's what I do. So I stitch it all the way around, and I've taped it across multiple places. After I've stitched it all the way around, then I take it out and trim up to that stitch line on both the front and the back, and I tear my tape away. Okay, that's gonna, now everything's in place. You just want to make sure that things are not shifting, and anything underneath that fabric is still taped, which is fine. Then you go back in, put it back in, and it will do your covering stitch, but you want to make sure you're holding that down as you're going. Those edges need to stay, because the measuring tape is rounded on the edges. Where does my measuring tape go? Because it's rounded here, it's going to rock. And if that, especially on the left side, you want to make sure that it's flat up against it so that you don't actually catch it. Okay, that foot can get caught, and you do not leave your machine running by itself while these are going. This is a project that you must be in front of. I can't stress that enough, because you need to be paying attention. You've got metal in your machine, and it has to be right in the middle. I can't stress enough. Go back and watch the construction part of it from last week's Facebook Live on Tuesday, where I did it with Angela, and we did it on the Luminaire, because those sewing steps are exactly what you want to do, and that will walk you through doing it. Okay. Let me see. Any other questions for me? So if you had Power Pack 2, you could have used the image tracer. Yeah, Power Pack 2, you could use the image tracer in BES 4. In PE Design, if you didn't want to go through Canvasworkspace, you could have made this pretty simple. Hold on, let me turn off this comment. Did I forget anything else? Nope. Okay. So let me go back over here to the software. If you didn't want to go into any other program, you just wanted to do it here in PE Design, you can right mouse click and choose Input and From File. This brings in an image file, or go to your Image tab and choose Open from File. Anything on the Image tab is going to talk about pictures, okay? So if I grab my stabilizer wrap, this is my 2-color one, and I know it doesn't auto punch. So this is your 2-color wrap. This was my original one. And you'll notice the size, it adjusted the size on me. So we want that to be resized to 1.79. And I'm holding down my Shift key. 1.8 will be fine. And the Shift key kept it in the middle of my page. I don't want to change that size. I want to change the height. So 1.79 by 9.4. That'll be fine. 9.06, 9.04, no big deal. It is my image to work with. So I'm going to zoom in on this guy. And we're going to grab our Shapes tool. You could do the rounded rectangle tool. And choose, let me change back to metric because I know this in metric. Let's say we want to round it to 15. I'm guessing if I don't round it enough, no big deal. We can always adjust it. And we're going to draw that rectangle. And let's zoom in so we can see if we're on top of it or not. Boy, that was a pretty good guess at 0.15. Okay, so I need to widen it up just a hair. And I actually could go into size. That would be the easiest way. So let's go to size. All right, inches. I'm a sizer in inches, so we want 1.79, right? By 9.0, not proportional, but 9.04. And click apply. Okay. So now we're the size that we need to be. All right. We can turn off our image because we don't need to worry about that anymore. So image tab, take that all the way down. And you all are about to see how easy this was just to do it with a shape. So we're going to turn off our fill stitch and change that to not sewn. And we're going to select our outline and we're going to say create offset lines. We're going to go inward and we're going to go inward 0.25 inches and click OK. There you go. Now you're going to take this guy and you would convert him to applique. So really, drawing it there is super simple with the shapes tool if you bring in your image. And that image is downloadable. So let's see here. What have I got? Oh, certainly. Yes. You'll notice that you definitely want to make sure that you stitched your fabric first. Remember, I had an entire thing set up for just fabric. That's why I did not show you putting lettering on the one with the applique, because you do not do lettering on top of metal. All right. So let's see here if I can explain this a little bit better. But I promise, if you go watch last week's Facebook Live on Tuesday with Angela, last week's on Brothersews. Okay, so here's the deal. Let me turn off this comment, Susan. So imagine that this is not a hole. Okay, you see my little hole. This is from the one that I did before. You're going to stitch your placement stitch on here and then the inner piece of that. In the inner piece of that, you would have this guy right here. And you put it right smack dab in the middle of that, and you make sure that it's in the middle of that. All right? But this is the final piece. You would have a separate hoop that had adhesive tearaway on it with pieces of fabric that are about 3 by 10. Okay, and this has my fusible on the back of it. You could have an entire sheet if you're doing all wash away at one time. Remember, I color coded. So you're going to lay that down on your adhesive tearaway, and that's the one with the words, and you're going to stitch all those first. Take that out of the hoop, trim them up, and you're ready to go to the next step, which is to stitch on to your washable stabilizer. And that's where this comes into place. So it stitches the bastings, the outer rim and the inner rim. You would then know to tape this down and tape this down on top of it, making sure that it's in the middle of it. On the back side, you tape the back. It doesn't have any fusible on it. Tape it together, put it back in the machine and stitch around it. Take it out, trim it, put it back in, and then you stitch the covering stitch. If you watch that Facebook Live, I promise you it will be clear as mud. Actually, it will be very clear because I actually stitched one in the process. So I basically, yeah, 2 separate hoopings. You're not doing this in the same hoop because it would not work very well. Not at all. So that's, yeah, because we're not stitching and turning. You had to do it in 2 separate hoopings. Okay. One is all with the lettering. That's why we had 2 separate pages. And one is all with the covering stitches, the finished design. Okay. If you guys have any questions for me, let me know. I'll be glad to answer them. But like I said, please go watch that Facebook Live first before coming back, because I promise you, if you watch it stitch, it will make perfect sense. Because I went through the entire process the other day. Since I was trying to show it in 2 different software programs today so that more people could do it, I wanted to give you the different options. It could be done in simply Applique as well, exactly like I just did for BES4. Okay, so next week I have a special guest again. Karen's going to come back and we're going to do a little bling bling and with a little embroidery. So be sure and come back next week, next Tuesday. And if you are in my Lettering So Easy group, remember this Thursday is our day. So and don't ask me what page we're starting on because I have absolutely no clue. I'd have to go look that up. I'm still on Tuesday and that's not till Thursday. So you guys have a great rest of the week. It was good to see you today. Hopefully you had a little bit of fun and learned a little something new today. there's always different ways to do things. If you didn't want to open Canvas Workspace in BES4, you could trace around it with one of the drawing tools. Very simple to do. You just have to click around. And if you want to make curves, you hold the control key down while using your line drawing tool. Okay. So y'all have a great rest of the day. Have a great rest of the week, and I shall see you next Tuesday. Bye.